Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. She and I were high school sweethearts who attended a major university together in the late 90s, got married, had 2 children, and lived the suburban family life. Everything seemed idyllic until in the final 2 weeks of December 2017, nearly 18 years into our marriage and 25 years into our relationship, she dropped a series of bombshells on me, the aftershocks of which continue to affect me to this day. From love bombing to daddy issues, deception to confession, narcissism, sexual promiscuity, and painful questions of masculinity. This true life tale has it all. I am certain this is among the most bizarre stories anyone has encountered, as my life overnight turned from one of middle-class white suburbia to what seemed like a risque episode of Sex and the City. I was unexpectedly led down a journey who knew how many hours it would take me to reconstruct timelines of memories I had no idea I would have any reason to revisit. I poured myself into articles and podcasts on topics ranging anywhere from dating, female psychology, infidelity to hookup culture, and reached out to many of the corresponding authors or hosts, offering tidbits of my story in search of some way to process it. I simultaneously found myself reinvigorated with a completely new outlook on my life, but also left with deeply devastating questions of my own masculinity. As I realized my life and marriage were nothing at all as I had believed them to be, I began seeing her when she was 15 and a half, and we were quite opposite. Although I was a year older, I was excited about attending Boy Scout camp that summer and had never seriously dated anyone. By contrast, she was extremely open from our very first date about having gone out with numerous boys before me, albeit casually. There were multiple boys in our small rural hometown she dated, as well as boys from a wealthy suburb where her father served as a police officer. She regaled me with stories of rich boys showing off by zipping her around in their dad's Ferrari. The world she painted seemed almost otherworldly to me, as I knew little of life outside of our farming town. She told me stories about staying multiple weekends down on the river prior to dating me, at a friend's family summer home where they owned a boat, staying out all night on the docks, mingling with other vacationing teens or locals, was something she thoroughly enjoyed. She had countless stories of sneaking off to parties in the middle of the night, only to barely make it back to the boat by the time her friends' parents were getting up. After getting serious with me, however, she completely stopped going to the river. I never quite understood this, as returning to that carefree, vibrant life would have seemed just a normal part of teenage adventure. She presented to me in a near ceremonial fashion a slinky tank top she claimed to have worn down by the river, claiming it represented a part of her life she no longer needed to revisit. She admitted that before me, she had a bad habit of dating multiple boys at once. Counting the thrill of dangerous encounters, she confessed to multiple close calls where she nearly got caught, but reveled in how exciting it had been to balance that myriad of relationships without one boy ever finding out about another. She came from a seemingly good home where both parents worked in professional jobs, providing a stable, loving life. Her dad was the epitome of the hyper-masculine man and a notoriously overprotective father. He would go out of his way to display his myriad of police shooting trophies to any prospective boyfriends, while her mother held the family together as the dutiful wife. She excelled at school, an honor student passed down a legacy of high expectations from her parents. I was a carefree spirit without a suspicious bone in my body, blissfully oblivious to what lay beneath. I assumed dating to her meant the same as it did to me, dinners and movies, which to me were the height of excitement at that age, and presumed her stories were merely some embellishments, far from serious realities. I had little concept of establishing boundaries, asserting myself, or demanding respect. She, by contrast, was jaded, highly suspicious, and already displaying a sharp, quick-witted personality that led many to predict she would become a fiery attorney one day. Though I was naive, she did a lot of good for me. Prior to dating her, I had been a sheltered, nervous wreck who struggled to make any serious decisions and had precious little real-world experience. She forced me to come out of my shell, to start living life, and experience things I doubted I ever would have without her guidance. Since I was a year older, I started college first, but it was during my senior year that I began to see her narcissistic tendencies more clearly. She demanded attention and built a mindset that constantly fought for and against why the world should care about her. Her parents, through their countless sacrifices to provide for her, depicted a life where she could do no wrong. Yet, this role had its repercussions. She began to believe she was entitled, expecting the same sacrifices from others, especially me. To her, it was a given that I was supposed to know to put my own ambitions on hold as she graduated. The last few months of my senior year became all about her being left behind, with her constructing a false narrative where I would inevitably leave her for someone better. She hurled endlessly wild accusations at me, convinced that I would forget about her, that I would find someone else to love, or even cheat on her. At just 17 years old, her imagination ran wild. She insisted on a small diamond promise ring before I left for college, demanded daily phone calls on my part, and forced me to work a job in the campus chow hall to cover my phone bill. I faithfully took a charter bus home every other weekend all year just to prove my devotion, gravitating toward the sanctity of our bond, while she grotesquely constructed a narrative rooted in exaggerated worst-case scenarios. What would later unravel before my eyes was truly gut-wrenching. I partook in none of the wild college experiences she perceived. I was completely oblivious to hookup culture, having barely heard the term, and it never crossed my mind that she would join me at college the following year. To everyone's surprise, she thrived. She was highly successful, even holding a speaking role at her graduation in front of thousands of fellow students. During her college career, she occupied multiple prestigious university-appointed positions. In that capacity, she traveled and worked with several male counterparts, many of which I knew very well. Surprisingly, I developed a sense of trust, treating these times apart as a necessary respite. To me, navigating the excitement of her whirlwind life was thrilling, and I believed it fostered shared growth in our relationship. Fast forward several years into marriage and kids, and I found myself facing a seemingly insurmountable crisis. Our sex life became non-existent, drastically waning for the better part of a decade. Her narcissism, which I had initially written off as youthful exuberance, became increasingly unbearable. She began to expect me to take on the role of hyper-masculine provider, forcing me to juggle multiple jobs while also ascending a corporate ladder of endless promotions and huge pay raises, creating a life fit for a stay-at-home mom, one that I readily found impossible. The longer I failed to live up to her expectations, the greater her frustrations escalated. She would often use the word yuck to describe the idea of sex, while I endured years of neglect, working countless hours at her insistence. Paradoxically, during the winter of 2017, a breakdown culled by our rebellious teenage daughter and exhaustion manifested. December arrived, ushering in a turn of events I could not have fathomed. In what was a mental breakdown for her and a full gaslighting of me, she began, of her own accord, to confess. I had never requested her past, for I had always genuinely believed that I was her only partner, a narrative overwhelmingly reinforced by our later marriage and the barricade she created on our wedding night. Later, the enormity of her dark truths would plunge me into a well of disbelief. In those chaotic 2 weeks of confessions, the moment my entire reality shattered, she became insatiable, craving my affection in ways I had never seen. She offered me all that I desired, as if she was eagerly trying to atone for years of neglect and emotional separation. Simultaneously, she provided confessions of unspeakable nature, admitting secrets so egregious I could hardly even process her truths as they spilled forth. Between fervent acts of intimacy, she began to plead for my forgiveness, rewarding me with praise that felt like an intoxicating blend of farce and desperation. So many years spent believing I was the only one that mattered in her life. Now, abruptly and without warning, I faced the anguish of knowing that her past was riddled with sinful echoes of those who had come before me. Painted against a backdrop of intertwined relationships I never even imagined existed. She divulged that her first experience with sexual partners began at age 14. Those harmless boyhood exploits, proudly presented to me as adventurous tales, now exposed her to be a girl who thrived in the safety of male attention, each escapade a stepping stone into infamy. She confessed that the slinky tank top I kept in the closet was, indeed, her hookup attire, something to wear when she would go about securing her rendezvous with boys who desired her innocent facade for their gratification. In those moments, she told me to burn it. The weight of her admission crushed me. As the days passed, The tip of the iceberg revealed deep secrets of infidelity hidden beneath our shared life. Each of her confessions further deflated me, resonating like a loud, clanging bell with painful revelations. Boys she had hooked up with were often concealed right beneath my unsuspecting gaze, and the irony was not lost on me. Every name peeled back layers of betrayal, exposing a web of secrets. Her pattern of seeking out dominant partners shone starkly in our history, as each identified male partner mirrored the traits of alpha males: athletic, muscular, and supremely confident. Muscular and supremely confident. M, her high school boyfriend, a giant at 6'4" with a 4 academic record and a scholarship to Yale, served as a jarring reminder. I was aware of her casual involvement with him while enduring my college days. I didn't want to be the controlling boyfriend, but I had no awareness of the depth of their relationship. Sex within the first week would have seemed unthinkable to me at the time. Tragically, the signs were always there for those willing to notice. M was shrewd, and as her innocent boyfriend, I remained oblivious. What constantly haunts me now, amidst the never-ending internal monologue replaying our relationship, is the chilling realization of how easily I became a pawn in her game. Fuel to that fire was our ill-fated Christmas when I unwittingly drove her to M's house, waiting in the freezing cold for over 2 hours while she hooked up with him without a shred of remorse. I was nothing but a willing accomplice to my own destruction. Her college years were far worse, but they remained shrouded in darkness. Hints of secrets barely hinted at, tortured out of her during those confessional moments. With each story, I spiraled deeper into disbelief. Consumed by a mix of heartache and rage, I realized that I had been reduced to a mere pawn, every moment of love undercut by her betrayals, worsening the exchange of soft whispers and intimate affection I had come to expect from her. I demanded accountability for her actions, searching for resolution amidst crumble. Preparing to confront her brought arrangements ripe with tension, igniting the fire in my gut. My spine tingled with intensity every time I pictured how I would set my plan into motion. I started small, noting every detail as I plotted the revenge that felt so deserving. In the days leading up to the inevitable confrontation, the pieces started aligning underneath the pretense. I would gather evidence and ensure that she truly could not deny the extent of her betrayal. I began casually inviting all her friends to our home, looking for any slip-up or inscribed declaration of what she had done, all under the guise of a normal family gathering. Hooks of her past started creeping back into view. Then came the moment of truth. It was a frantic Saturday night beneath a full moon, casting shadows of desire over our backyard. During a dinner filled with boisterous laughter, I carefully angled conversations, threading questions about her past lovers. My heart raced as her laughter dimmed, realizing she was being led into an inescapable trap. The atmosphere altered, a tightening tension palpable in the air. Friends exchanged furtive glances, mouthing confusions behind strained smiles. The air turned electric, all in anticipation of the inevitable break. My soul thrummed, alive with the finality I craved as I leaned in, delivering the dagger thrust of betrayal full force. Her darkest secrets erupted like a storm, my bold unveiling tearing apart the facade she so desperately constructed over the years. As her truths flowed into the evening air, tears streamed down her cheeks, the flickering ambient lights illuminating her shameful visage. Amidst the chaos of shock peppered with disbelief, a wild outburst of vulnerability forced her defense into exposure. "Why? Why would you do this to us?" she cried, clutching her head, grappling with spiraling torment as the truth revealed itself. "I'm sorry, I never wanted to hurt you." But the satisfying weight of catharsis crashed over me. I delivered a chilling final line, my voice steel and full of resolve. "This is the consequence of your decisions." My determination cemented her fate before her closest companions, who absorbed the emotional whirlwind unfolding before them. Apologies fell on deaf ears while I took her moment of vulnerability and transmuted it further, fusing her pain into my end goal of brutal revenge. I mixed my furor with her despair gracefully, giving her admittance to the personal hell I would no longer endure. What followed was like a cinematic climax played out in slow motion. I demanded they choose, testify to her hidden past, or risk their relationship with a liar. The rumble of shock traveled through the crowd as friends peeled apart, unwilling to protect her tarnished honor. Confessed betrayals bred a whirlwind of ruin, which likely cracked her fragile psyche in the days that turned into week-long spirals of despondency. And just like that, the mask shattered entirely. The cold realization echoed in the space. She truly had nowhere to hide. In that moment, among her closest friends and family, she was left utterly exposed, the consequence of her reckless appetites finally bearing down hard. As she broke down in front of them, I saw something stronger than my own pain, a sense of painful satisfaction surfacing, a keen sense of justice clawing at the surface of my soul. Somehow, the reckoning had become a performance piece meant to be witnessed by everyone she had hurt. "Who'll take you now?" I uttered, delivering each word with the sharpness of a knife, blending power with exquisite cruelty. Ultimately, each step I took in revealing her lies felt like the final reel of destiny, streaming toward a brutal climax. It left her fully bared to the world, her character freely judged by the very individuals forced to believe her mythos of innocence was reality. In the aftermath, I remained numb to the sorrow of the dissolution of our life together. The parents we draped over our children? Gone, washed away by the tides of her actions. I had secured my revenge that night, and it tasted bittersweet and full of longing as I watched her completely kaleidoscope into a reflection of her shattered reputation. No longer would she be seen with the same awe or affection. The ghost of her past had painted a new trajectory, and all I could whisper into the darkness was how easy it had been to bring her truth to light. As the remnants of their bond faded into the night, I snagged her breathless gaze and concluded, "Now, you're just a shadow of the woman you used to be." Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like.